What the president can do that could be helpful to protect doctors' rights is an executive order from the White House could simply reaffirm the rights of doctors. The president could direct agencies with enforcement power not to issue any negative consequences or penalties for doctors prescribing hydroxychloroquine because they are, in fact, following the law. The president could issue an executive order that protects doctors' First Amendment rights to free speech, free assembly, the right to petition. And the president could issue an executive order that protects legal prescriptions from negative consequences. So that is one avenue, going to the White House and asking for executive order. The second avenue is approaching the Secretary of Health and Human Services. Now, the president and the Secretary of Health and Human Services have both declared states of emergency. Now, when they declare states of emergency in the statutory scheme, this allows the Secretary of HHS to have certain emergency powers that he doesn't normally have. So when a Secretary of State has this emergency power, he gets to direct the national stockpile. Now, the power was even greater when hydroxychloroquine had an emergency use authorization, because at that point it was considered a qualified countermeasure. But now that we do not have the authorization, the powers are a little bit different. But what the secretary can do is distribute hydroxychloroquine from the national stockpile. Now, one interesting avenue to pursue would be to approach the Secretary of Health and Human Services and ask that he distribute hydroxychloroquine from the national stockpile to doctors who are interested in prescribing it, just directly to doctors as drug samples. And then doctors can give out that hydroxychloroquine as a free drug sample and use that process to develop a track record of effectiveness that can be used to combat the media narrative to the contrary. If the FDA were to reinstate that emergency use authorization, then the Secretary of HHS would have the additional power to contract with manufacturers of hydroxychloroquine to have more being produced. Because right now, without that emergency use authorization, the program I'm suggesting might be limited to what's existing in the stockpile. So that's a second option, getting the Secretary of HHS to basically distribute HCQ directly to doctors to give directly to patients.
Before I let you go, I have to ask you about hydroxychloroquine. It's in the news once again. The president retweeted a video promoting it. He even said, I took it for a 14-day period and I'm here. I don't think you lose anything by doing it. The vice president said yesterday, many Americans have had positive experiences with hydrochloroquine. But the FDA actually revoked emergency authorization for the drug because it wasn't effective and it wasn't safe. It was potentially dangerous. So once and for all, should people be taking hydroxychloroquine?
So just to be clear, we revoked an EUA, an emergency use authorization, at the request of another government agency, BARDA. And this was for drug that was authorized for use in sick hospitalized patients. We had data that when this drug was combined with others, there were some risks associated with that. But the decision, the question you're asking me is a decision between a doctor and a patient. A doctor and a patient needs to assess the data that's out there. FDA does not regulate the practice of medicine, and that, in the privacy of a doctor-patient relationship, is where that decision should be made.
Are you concerned at all about misinformation about this drug in particular?
What I'm concerned about is that FDA provide all the information about the side effects, the potential side effects, as well as the efficacy. As you know, these drugs have been approved for a number of years for other indications by the FDA. We know that they're safe in those settings, but we want to make sure that the right information is out to providers so that they can make this decision with patients.
Well, Dr. Hahn, yes, you have your hands full, and we appreciate your work. Thank you so much. Thanks for your time this morning.